Why not men, only women? Because they did not bring food when Jewish people were gone from Egypt.
Right.
They were passing their country, and they were cousins. They were passing by, and they did not give them hospitality.
Can a mullah convert?
It's always machloket.
2 million Jews, how do you give a whole nation hospitality in the desert? Imagine like a city or whatever, 2 million people, hospitality. You can't, it's like you're being overridden. It's like America can't bring in 300,000, Mexicans with a country of 500 million people. Oh, we're being overrun. Imagine your land or whatever, Ammon or Moab, and you have 2 million Jews that came out of Egypt. How do you feed them in the desert? How do you give them supplies? It's not like it's unlimited, right?
There was a story in Holocaust. There was a famous picture. There was a girl about 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She was wearing rags. She was walking through the mud field after the war, and she was carrying on her shoulders a kid, like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old kid, boy. So there was a photographer, took a picture of that, and that picture became viral. Went all over the world to see what's going on in Europe after Holocaust. She was wearing nothing, almost nothing. But she was carrying her brother across the field. So when she came to America, they met her. She became famous. And they asked her publicly. She was 13 years old. They said, "But wasn't this boy heavy? How did you carry him? He was heavy."
I don't feel it.
She said, "No, he wasn't heavy. He was my brother." So
It's not difficult, it's my family, right?
Yeah.
I understand. That's the real answer.
because over here, it's different in America.
So they're neighbors, the Mexicans, right?
Well,
They're
Don't
Guatemalans.
love,
So
Americans
let them
don't love
in.
Mexicans.
They're all neighbors.
There's no love for the Mexicans.
But over here, it was like two tribes. Let's say, imagine you're in Kalamazoo, somewhere in Congo, and there's two tribes. They're really coming from the same family.
Mm-hmm.
And one tribe is running away from genocide. So you're not going to help them, just leave them to die? No. So you don't do that. This is also there was still a tribe, even though there was a big tribe, okay, 2 million Jews, okay, right. But anyway, in Megillat Lerut, the protagonists, no, I should say antagonists, those who did not do good, those that Ruth does not condone, those that Ruth considers to be quote unquote bad. Mm-hmm. They didn't do anything bad. Because Elimelech, who left Israel, was he allowed to live? Yes.
Because there was a drought. There was
a drought, there was hunger. Mm-hmm. His 2 sons, were they allowed to marry them? Yes, because they converted, you're allowed to marry them. Ploni Almoni, who didn't marry Ruth, was he allowed to do it? Also was allowed to do it. So, there was no really bad people. It's just that there were no people who were doing chesed. And the Ruth is telling us that when it comes to Torah, we're learning from Torah that you have to extend yourself to your brother. Torah teaches us chesed. Torah is built on chesed, on doing chesed for others. Mm-hmm. So that's why we read it. Megillah, according to my Rebbe, that's why we read Megillah Ruth, to tell us what Torah is all about. Because the essence of the Torah is to do chesed. In the beginning of Megillah Ruth, it describes a story of tragedy, sadness, death, doom, hopelessness, helplessness. At the end of Ruth, if you look first 7 psukim of Ruth and last 7 psukim, at the end of Ruth, it describes when Ovid was born, the son of Ruth and Boaz. It describes the story of resilience, the continuation, happiness, family, ties, and hope. And in the middle of Megillat Ruth, you have a story of Chesed, of Boaz, taking a orphan, poor, non-lineaged, non-Jewish, Yichus girl to be his wife, and he was from a high society. So
Made a good shidduch.
very good shidduch it turned out because the Melech came from it. And so you have something negative turning into positive. But what made it, and what changed it, what turned it around is the act of chesed. So in our own lives and our private lives, we have to overcome the barrier of not doing chesed, but every time you do chesed, it's just only going to bring good things. So therefore, I want to thank everyone for coming. Let's see our Gemara. We're on Daf Chafal Hamad Aleph. Our plan today is to get to the Mishnah. We are Amar Rav Chizda. Amar Rav Chizda. Do you have it, Mark? Yeah.
Amar Chizda. How many lines from the top?
It's like in the middle of the page.
Oh, I see it. Amar Chizda. Yep.
Let's do so. Let's run.
22 lines.
Right, I see it.
Amar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda said, "Behema, an animal, chetze shel nochri. Half of it belongs to a goy. Vechetze shel Israel, and half of it belongs to a Jew." Now the question is, are you allowed to shecht it on Yom Tov or not? Mutar l'shachta b'Yom Tov. It's permissible to shecht it on Yom Tov. What's the explanation? It's impossible to have even one kazayit of meat without shchita of an entire animal. In other words, the whole question was what? What was the question? It's asur to prepare food or shech or goy. Over here, when you shecht this animal, the goy is going to come and take his half. He's not going to just leave it to you. He's not going to tell you, okay, you eat the entire animal because since you shechted it on Yom Tov, so now you could have my half. No, he's going to take his half and he's going to eat it. So maybe you shecht it for goy. The answer is because it's impossible for me to eat my half, even one kazayit, without shechting an entire animal. So it comes out when I did the shechita, I shechted it for myself, for a Jew. It happened de facto that Goy also got his half, but the actual act of shechita was warranted. It was 100% legitimate. Isa, next case. Isa, chetzir shel nachri v'chetzir shel Israel. If we have a dough, half of it belongs to Goy and half of it belongs to Israel. Asur la'afot b'Yom Tov. It's asur to bake it on Yom Tov. What's the difference between?
As we said, you can cut a piece of dough.
Because you could split it.
Separate it, right?
Because you can separate it. The ha'efshar lemiflega bilisha. Because it's possible to divide it. In other words, you don't need to bake the whole thing in order to eat the Jews' half. You could take the Jews' half, separate it, and bake it. So if you could do it, do it.
But didn't we also learn that before that let's say for cooking for Yom Tov, if you're cooking something more than you need, but if it's one piece and it's going to help, it's going to enhance, let's say, the food, then it's allowed, right?
Yes.
So over here, can you use that same logic? If you take that full dough and say, I'm just cooking for myself because it's a
No,
bigger
but
piece,
half
it's
is
going to
the
bake
goy's.
better.
Half of it is the goy's.
I understand.
The goy doesn't want his half baked.
You're not baking it for him, you're just
He has
using
to
it
take it.
You understand what I'm saying?
We're gonna give a better explanation. 1 second. Yehuda's Mishnah is making the following connection. He says that earlier we learned that you could put a lot of food
Right.
into an oven, into a pot, even if you're not going to eat all of it on Yom Tov.
Right.
Even if you're only going to have the second half, the 50% that you're going to eat is for Yom Tov. The other 50% is you doing malacha. That's permissible. Those 50% is permissible. But why this 50% that belong to a goy is not permissible? Even though it's one action. So, Yehuda probably wants to answer, right? Yehuda says the difference, obviously, on the surface is that over there, the whole thing belongs to a Jew. Over here, have it belongs to a goy.
Right.
But it's still not sufficient, because even part that belongs to a Jew, but I want to, even the food belongs to me, but I want to cook it for next day, it's not permissible. It becomes like not warranted cooking. So just like cooking for next day, even if it's Jewish food, is prohibited. Cooking non-Jewish food, goy's food, even for today, is the same prohibition. The same prohibition. So therefore, how are we answering this question? How are we really answering this question? The answer is, at least the answer is one word: potential. We couldn't figure out what I mean.
Potentially, it's allowed, regardless, right? Is that what you're saying?
At least if it's Jews' food,
If you have an Erev Tavshilin,
potentially it could be eaten on Yom Tov for a Jew. Whereas the goys doesn't even have the potential to be eaten
It's not kosher.
by a Jew. Not because it's not kosher, because he did not relinquish.
okay.
He did not sign the paper that says you could have the second half also. It belongs to him. He retains it. He wants to take it back. He wants to. It wants to be in. So that answers your question, right?
yeah.
Take
So it's common practice, an animal for two households, they would split it and they would.
We'll see later on. We'll see later on.
Imagine the only way you can get meat is if you buy a cow.
Yeah, it's expensive.
You have to split with a few neighbors.
80 years ago it was like that, 60 years ago.
They didn't have butchers 60 years ago?
They did, but 3-4 families would get together, the butcher's not just gonna butcher a cow and then wait, he would have orders, people waiting on, yeah, the cow had to have been sold already, and then he would butcher and do everything else with it, and then they would separate.
Well, today in America, every animal has a shul. Israel has shul. Noch half Jews, half goys, because we don't
You can
eat
eat half
the back half of the animal.
No, here's
We
a
only
question.
front half.
There's a question on the live. What's the prohibition of doing this on Yom Tov?
Cooking on Yom Tov is prohibited for a non-Jew.
Ah. Too good for a non-Jew.
Okay? Now, excellent. Wow, look at it. Ma'asev Rav Chana bar Chanilai. Rav Chana bar Chanilai is asking a question. Isat klavim, a dough that was made for dogs, as dog food. בזמן שרואים אוכלמתה ממנה, if the shepherds also eat it, חייבת בחלה, you have to separate חלה, ומערבן בה, and you're allowed to use it for עירוב, ומשתתפן בה, and you're allowed to use it בשיתופי חצרות, שיתופי מבואות, ומברכן עליה, and you make המוצנת, ומזמנן עליה, and you, light is
Participate in Zoom.
and Zimon. When the Efed be Yom Tov, and you're allowed to bake it on Yom Tov. Thank you, Mara. V'adam yotzer bo yedei chovato b'Pesach. And if it happens to be chametz, you could fulfill the mitzvah of matzah with it. So the Gemara asks, v'amai v'efsher leili miflaga belisha. We're talking about a dough or bread that was baked for dogs. And it's really dog food. But it's kosher for people. And sometimes even a shepherd could eat it. Or shepherd's help. They would eat it. So we're saying like this, that if you eat it, if you're able to eat it, they have to make hamotza, and it has all the laws of being
Sounds
bread.
like the dog is eating human bread, not the man is eating dog bread. That's what it sounds
But
like.
Gemara says that there are certain ingredients they put into it, ingredients that don't go into human bread, like seeds or like straw. Like they quickly do it.
Something just to
They
make
quickly mix it up, bake it, and give it to dogs. Dogs don't mind.
It's not refined.
Right, not refined. Dogs don't mind. But sometimes a person could also eat it
That's what
if they put less garbage into it.
because you have a mitzvah to feed your animal, no?
Yeah,
That's nothing to do
of
with
course.
it. So
Yeah.
therefore, that's why it's allowed.
Allow what?
That's why this is allowed.
1 second. What exactly are you referring to?
I'm
Bake
saying
on
that's why
Yom
you're
Tov?
allowed to bake for a dog.
Are you giving answer of the Gemara before the Gemara gave an
I
answer?
don't know. I'm just,
Gemara just asked the question. What was Gemara's question?
the Gemara's question is the same reason. How can you bake for?
How could, it says that you're allowed to bake it on Yom Tov. Gemara is asking,
How can you bake for?
how could you
a
bake it
dog?
on Yom Tov? It's dog food. Just like you're not allowed to cook. It's only for a Jew you're allowed to cook.
Right.
You're not allowed to cook for dogs on Yom Tov either.
Right.
Dogs should eat something that was cooked before Yom Tov. Or coming from the can, whatever, dog food.
Rabbi, why is it asur for a goy to cook for a Jew on Shabbat on the Chag and Yom Tov,
Because it says lachem.
The other
For
way,
you.
the other way around.
or non-Jew to cook for a Jew? I mean,
For non-Jew, for Jew is okay.
oh, for a Jew to cook for a non-Jew is not allowed.
Right.
Oh, okay, fine.
Now, so we have a very good question. How could you cook this dough or bake this dough on Yom Tov? Shani isad klavim hoil ve'efshel lefayasim b'nevelim. Why is this more is different than the dough of a goy? Half Jews, half goys. Because half Jews, half goys, at least half belong to me. But, and we said, therefore I cannot bake it.
Uh-huh.
But over here, the whole thing I'm allowed to bake.
It's his.
It belong. Let's say I'm a shepherd. I made this dough for the dogs.
Right.
How do you think I'm going to use it? I'm going to eat a little bit, and I'm going to give to my dogs a little bit. So it comes out, it's exactly the same case as goys and Jews.
Exactly.
Half of it belongs to me, even if I'll decide to eat it. Half of it belongs to them. But over here, there is a permissibility to bake the entire thing. Why don't I say no? Separate it first. Your part, bake it separately, and whatever your dogs don't bake now, but bake it Motzei Yom Tov after Yom Tov is over. No, we allow the whole thing to be baked. The Gemara says because you could give the dogs nevela. Nevela is nevela.
Carcass.
Non-kosher meat. Let's say you have a non-kosher cow, sheep that you shechted. You don't want to. You cannot utilize it. You cannot eat it.
Roadkill.
Who do you think is going to eat it? Right? Something like that. Or chas v'chalila, an animal, a predator, a wolf or a bear came, killed one of the animals. Now dogs are going to have nevela, and you're going to have the entire bread.
It's nevela?
Yeah.
What's the difference between nevela and a widow nevela?
Treifa.
Again, what's the question?
Word, isn't it the same word for widow and nevela?
No, that's widow. That's almond.
Alman, oh.
Different word.
I don't know why.
Different words.
Novel is fall, right?
Nevela is like a fallen.
An animal
word.
that fell. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the Gemara's answer? Gemara's answer that you have a control. You could give your dogs other food and turn this whole dough into your food.
Uh-huh.
So we're learning an additional concept over here that if there is a chance that this could be completely your meal,
Not allowed.
again there's
It is
permissibility.
allowed.
Allowed, I'm sorry.
Because it
Allowed.
could be yours. It
Right.
could be utilized by you. It could be completely eaten by you.
So if you cook for yourself and there's leftovers, you can give the leftovers to your goy?
Yeah, that could be. We're still not allowed to invite the goy to with you on Yom Tov because maybe you'll cook a separate meal for him. It's a midrabanan. We talked about it last time. We're going to see it later. Does Rav Hizda hold of hoil? Hoil means sins. Because we just utilized a Gemara's twist, a logical twist called hoil. Hoil means since you could turn it into your food by giving the dogs nevela. But this concept, because it could be, Rav Hizda doesn't hold of. Because it says, how a family Yom Tov lechol, Someone who cooked on Yom Tov for a weekday. Now, did he do good or bad?
Bad.
Bad.
Not allowed.
Question is, does he get punished for it? I cooked on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov is on Friday, on Sunday. I cooked for Monday on Yom Tov.
Right.
Is there a punishment for it? The answer is no. Why? Because it's not a conclusive prohibition. If it so would happen that an unexpected guest walked into my home on Sunday, on that last day of Yom Tov, I would be able to give it to them, and they would finish it. Their food would end up being utilized on Yom Tov. It would end up being food of Yom Tov.
Like the word you said, potential.
So that potential,
Yeah, if you focus on the idea of potential,
it
clarifies everything.
clarifies, right? So it says over here that Rav Chizda holds. It says like this. Yom Tov l'chol. Rav Chizda doesn't hold of this potential. Rav Chizda omer lokeh. Rav Chizda says you get malkot, you get punishment. Rabba omer einor lokeh. Rabba says you don't get malkot. Rav Chizda omer lokeh. Rav Chizda says you get malkot lo amrinan hoil. We don't say since umiklelei orchim the guests could come chazilei. He could eat it. He could eat it now, it's permissible. Rabba Omer Einaloke Amrinan oil.
Since maybe.
So this oil only works according to Rabba, but it doesn't work according to Rav Chizda.
Okay.
So if so, why did Rav Chizda himself said that you could bake the isa of dogs on Yom Tov? You don't say oil. Maybe you'll give them nevela and you'll take it. You don't say that. According to Rav Chizda, you don't say oil. Gemara fixes it. Gemara sometimes is able to switch on the spot. No. Lo tema oil ve'efsher ela de'etle nevela devade efsher l'faisam nevela. Don't say since he could potentially give them nevela, a carcass, a non-kosher meat, but tell them he actually is giving. Difference between not potentially he could give them. That potential too flimsy. Rav Chizda doesn't hold of this quasi possibility that maybe could happen but doesn't really happen. No, it's more concrete. He actually prepared for them nevela.
So
He's
then what's
giving
the
them
question?
food.
So what is the whole question? There's no question then. If you prepare for them.
He prepared. So Misha's asking. He prepared for them nevela,
Very good. What's the-
and now he's allowed to. And this he's keeping for himself. So therefore, he is allowed to. Maybe it's not still completely for him. It's not. He prepared for them nevela, but he didn't also specify that now the dough is going to be only for him. Dough is also for them.
Okay.
Maybe that's an explanation. Maybe that's an answer a little bit. Because at the end of the day, it remains still Isat Klavin, the dough of dogs. He didn't switch it, but he actually, it's still dog's food, but he has nevela ready. Although Rasha says, "V'nimtzes kula ne'echelet la'adam," and it's going to come out that the entire dough is going to be eaten by a man. So Rasha wants to say that it's going to come out that it's going to be eaten by the entire dough could be eaten by a man, by a person. But so according to that, if the entire is going to be eaten, then what's the whole question?
Yeah.
Like your question goes back to its place. Nevertheless, maybe we would think that you're still not allowed to, because who says that you will end up following through with this? Maybe you'll change your mind and you won't do it. Or maybe there's many different svaras you could say. I am not prepared to answer. It's a good question. I don't know, but
What's the question?
Misha is asking if at the end we said that he actually is going to give them, he has an available to give them. So what's the whole question? It's poshut. It's simple. Understand that you could bake this dough because now it already became food for the person, for the people, not for the dogs. What do you say?
Because he has meat that was.
Because we said that we're changing the case a little bit, but he actually is going to give dogs an available.
But he had also this dough prepared for them as well. It happens to be now Nevela became available. Now he has both.
Yeah, Gemara doesn't say that he's going to give them nevela and keep the dough for himself. It says that he has nevela, and now it's a real possibility that he could give them. Not possibility that if he could have given them nevela.
Therefore, he holds if guests would be at the house, then he would hold you can also probably cook.
Yes. If you have some, good point. If there is already guests, then it's...
Then you're cooking for Yom Tov, you're not cooking for Monday, whatever it is.
No, you really.
But even if you're not, let's say guests are in the house, but they ate already.
Right.
Ah, I see.
Maybe there is that's what they say on the bottom.
That's what it sounds like.
Sounds
Those
like
that
that.
subscribe to the principle of Hoyle hold that as long as there is any possibility that the act may result in Yom Tov eating, the Yom Tov has not been violated. Rav Chizda, however, only permits malacha when it can definitely result in Yom Tov eating, even if it might not ultimately be used for such a purpose. Therefore, if a carcass is available, the dough may be baked, since the carcass can be given to the dogs, resulting in the dough being eaten by humans. Cooking for guests who have not arrived, though, is prohibited, since it is possible that no guests will arrive that day.
But you're taking it a step further.
Yeah, I'm saying
That
if
if
the
guests
would be available,
and they're already in your house,
exactly,
even if they are not, didn't come for Suda,
exactly,
it's different.
because there's a real potential,
Real potential. Okay.
possibility that they can
Yeah,
eat.
maybe. Yeah.
Right. So that-
Okay. Good point. Good point. So everyone is invited to my house on Yom Tov. Okay. Let's go on. Gemara
Michael will come.
Gemara continues. Okay. Two dots. Bo minei Rav Huna.
Do you have a marker or Sharpie?
Now we're gonna have
1 minute.
a very interesting case.
Why me?
They asked Rav Huna, Bnei Baga, a army of Goyim or general. Imagine you are in Ukraine and will live in a small Jewish town called like
Oman.
Berdichev or Uman, right? And all of a sudden the Russian army comes in
Oh,
and they say,
I don't want to imagine that.
each household is supposed to cook for us. We're going to come in every night, and whatever you have in your refrigerator, matzah bowl, matzah, right? Say Jewish kosher Pesach pastrami,
Here's
whatever.
some bread we made for the dogs.
Whatever you have, we're going to eat it. They are obligated the Jewish population to feed them, which would be happening, would be a routine thing. And now, Maula foto b'Yom Tov. Can you bake it on Yom Tov?
Rabbi, wouldn't that be pekuach nefesh?
First, let's
Yeah,
understand the
that's
question.
a good point.
First,
That's a little different, right? It's the court method.
Who can tell me what the question is first?
How can you cook for a guy, for soldiers, for idolatrous? So.
One second. They only obligated us. It's not like they just told us, we're going to come and eat with you. We're going to come and eat
So
with
now
you.
when you're cooking, potentially you're cooking, maybe I might use this to feed a guy.
So look what Gemara is going to say. So you're right. They're going to be expecting food. You supposed to, on Yom Tov, you're supposed to also fill in the quota and cook food for them. But aren't you going to be ending up cooking for God? So let's see. Look what the answer is. Amar lehu. He told them, Chazina, you have to watch. If if they will give piece of bread, if they don't mind giving piece of bread from what you gave them to a child, v'lo kavdi, no, you have to see if they're gonna give, if they give bread to a child, it's permissible. V'lo kavdi, say it like this. We have to see in bnei akforim notnim pat letinok, ממש אופן מאנשי המלחמה אינם מקפידים על כך, נמצא שהפי הזו יש בה צורך אוכל נפש של ישראל, ומתרת. Okay. Right. So Gemara says like this. ואם לא ניתן לתת מתוך הענף אפילו פת אחד ליהנות, also, so like this. If you could give one piece to a Jewish child from what you're baking for them, then it's considered as if every loaf that you baked for them, you baked for a Jew. But if you cannot give one piece, then it's prohibited to bake all the bread for them.
Unless it's pikuach nefesh, right?
Right, but it's not
the same. It's the same example like with the dog almost.
How?
Because the same thing. Potentially, you can eat it. Potentially, it's edible for a human being, for a Jewish human, right?
Right.
Potentially. So therefore, you say the whole thing is permitted. And over here too, since potentially, if they wouldn't,
Even though one child is not going to eat from all those pieces, and most of these pieces are going to go, all of them, besides for maybe one, are going to go to the goyim.
interesting,
So but everything is permissible.
right?
To
Why?
bake.
That's interesting, right?
And the answer is because you never know which
One
one
they're gonna take.
is going to go to a goy. Since
Every
they
one potentially can be
could go to a
Uh-huh.
Jew. So we say on each one, this could be a Jewish. We bake it, and this one could also be Jewish. We bake it. This one could also be Jewish, and we bake it. Makes sense? No? Let's go on. Va'atanya masa b'shimon ateimani shelo ba emesh lebeis hamedrash b'shachris. Gemara asked a question, but there was a story with Shimon ateimani who didn't come to Beit HaMedrash. Matzor Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba Omer lo mipnei ma lo ba'ata. Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba found him and told him, "Why didn't you come to Beit HaMedrash to learn?" Amar lo bol shes ba'a lireinu. We had a army come to our town, ubiksha lachtof es kol ha'ir, and they wanted to take all of the food. V'shachatnu lahem egel v'achalanum, and we shechted for them a calf, and we gave it to eat. Upatranum l'shalom, and they became happy and they left. Omer lo tama ani im lo yatsa scharchem behefsetchem. Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba told him, I wonder if you transgress an isur. Sharei amra Torah lachem. Torah says to you, v'lo la'odech and not to goyim. So there was a story that contradicts what we said before, because the story was pretty similar. The army came, they shechted for them a piece of a calf, gave it to them, they ate and they left. And for some reason, Rabbi Yehuda ben Baba was not happy about it. He said, it's a problem. Gemara asks, why is it a problem? You could eat it if they don't object.
Again, the same logic.
Yeah.
Rav Yossi.
Amar Rav Yosef, egel treifa havai. It was the egel was non-kosher.
Eagle's bread?
Egel is
Calf.
calf. That answers it, because no Jew, even a chinok, even a little boy, cannot eat from treif, non-kosher animal. Comes out when they barbecue, and make shashlik with that. There you go.
But then
No
they
Jew
weren't-
could eat
but
it.
then they weren't allowed to cook. Why were they
So that's
allowed
exactly
to
why he objected. Why did you cook for them? You thought that everything is fine and dandy,
cook? Right.
but you cooked non-kosher meat for them.
I think I'm not sure they cook it. No, wait, can you put them on? I'm sorry.
No, 1 second.
Not now?
Okay, we have to finish. 1 second.
Okay, because I'm gonna head out soon.
Oh, so I'll come over to you.
Even better.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hang out for another 5-10 minutes, okay?
We'll see if we'll finish soon. Within 10 minutes.
We're here
10 minutes,
till
okay?
10? Till 10
We'll
o'clock?
finish 9:30.
Oh, so I can wait.
9:30 we'll finish. So Gemara. So we have the Gemara clear, right? Non-kosher egel, they transgressed. It was problem. Gemara asks on that. V'hachazil klavim. But it is something that the dogs could eat. Now, can you shecht something for your dogs? We're thinking right now that you could. Gemara says, Tanoihi. It's machloket Tanoim. The Tanya, Ach asher yachal lechol nefesh, hu levado ya'aseh lachem. Whatever is food you could make for yourself. Mimashma, from the fact that it says, Sheneimar lechol nefesh. It says anything that could be eaten by all nefesh, by a live entity, person. You could cook. Shomei anya afilu nefesh behema. So when we're learning from those who are nefesh, even if it's an animal. Kinyan sheneimar, like it says in a different place in pasuk, umaken nefesh behema shal mena. Someone who kills an animal has to pay to its owner. Talmud lamar lachem. That's why pasuk says lachem for you, lachem v'lo l'klavim. Rabbi Yossi, to you and not for dogs. That's what Rabbi Yossi said. This is Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Yossi Aglili said that. Rabbi Akiva Omer afilu nefesh behema b'mashma. Even an animal is included. Period. So you see, there's machloket tanaim. Im kein matal mudlomer lachem. So if you could cook for an animal, why does it say lachem? What do we learn from the word lachem? It comes to exclude something. Lachem and not goyim. For you, not goyim. What is this? Discrimination. Why are you saying you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov for your animals, but you're not allowed to cook for goyim? Marbe'ani et aklavim. We include the animals. We include the animals because you are obligated to feed them. Because you're supposed to feed your animals. And we exclude the goyim. So we don't know what is included in pasuk, what's excluded in pasuk. We have a choice. Is it your animals or is it goyim? We say we gotta include the goyim and we include your animals and non-goyim. Now, if we're gonna stop here. We're learning from here that animals that are not yours, animals that don't belong to you, and you're not obligated to feed. Like who? A stray dog that runs on the street, or pigeons or dogs. So those you are not allowed to cook for or carry food for on Yom Tov. It's not considered to be necessary for Yom Tov. So we're stopping here. We didn't get.
So how is he allowed to cook for those soldiers? But if it was treif, I don't understand.
Oh, so we never answered that, right?
How is he allowed to cook? Because maybe he was cooking for his animal, for his dog, or because his dog could have eaten it. Potentially, that's what.
Maybe it was pekuach nefesh. Because it's mashma over here that ubikshu lachtof et kol ha'ir. They wanted to rob the entire city. Now, if someone is going to be robbing you, if they don't get, it could be pekuach nefesh
So then what's the
because
question?
somebody is going to Well, it's not clear that it's pikuach nefesh, but it could come to pikuach nefesh.
I see. Understand.
Or even maybe if it's not pikuach nefesh, but it may be big hefset, it could they could lose everything. Maybe we find that something which is a sudrabanan, if it's gonna be such a, because if you lose all your money, then it's also like pikuach nefesh,
Oh, really?
because you're not gonna survive, you're gonna starve to death. So maybe you couldn't transgress the rabban. So we have to see in the first explanation. So.
But this is not this is the Ramban, it's not the Ramban.
Oh, this is gonna also cook for those guys. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I didn't know that you have to take the measurements.